pick up that old fossil.
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vedabonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And you were wrong, Kenton.
Ah.
We'll start with that.
That's my Mandalorian I was wrong sound.
Is that what it is? We did not see Ahsoka. So spoilers, obviously, we did not see Ahsoka Tano in this episode. You thought, you said last week that
yes,
they can't talk about her in this episode and not have her appear in the next episode, but she did not appear. So that makes me think that it is going to be like an end of the season kind of a thing, right? We still have a few more episodes left to get there, but I don't think that that'll be the final episode, I think.
You and I were right about something though.
What's that?
That all of the stuff that said that episode 4 would be packed with things that would change the Mandalorian forever. Remember that? All of that in advance of that? And we said it sounds like bullshit.
Yeah.
And it was pure bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, what could they possibly have been talking about there? I don't understand. Sure, we get some insight into what the Empire is doing. Yeah. But really, very little happens in this episode. And it was still, I mean, it was 40 minutes long, so about the average time frame for these episodes. But yeah, I don't see what the big deal would have been, or what would have possibly made Pedro Pascal not want to be on the show. Is not what it was supposed to be. Something that happened during episode 4. I
thought that it could be a few things. I thought it could be, okay, let's assume. Oh, there's the cat behind you.
Yeah.
I could say, let's assume Pedro Pascal wants to leave the show. If that were true, that'd be big. Let's assume he gets killed on the show called The Mandalorian, and instead the show becomes about Boba Fett. I thought that could happen.
Okay.
Or I thought that he could hand off Baby Yoda in episode 4 and say, have a tearful farewell, and we don't see Baby Yoda for the rest of the season. I thought that would make people mad. I was thinking what could make people mad, and nothing that I thought of happened.
And nothing that happened in this episode made us mad, I don't think, anyway.
No, I really enjoyed this episode. I really got a kick out of it. Just pure fun. Pure Star Wars fun.
There was a lot of great Star Wars stuff in there. So we'll start with the beginning, and he's limping across space. Those darn Mon Calamari mechanics did nothing for that Razor Crest, and he's continuing to have trouble. But yet he's trying to get Baby Yoda to help him with his repair work, which I thought was quite funny.
That was a great scene. And it was a take on the classic bomb scene from every movie where it's like, not the red wire, the blue wire. Yeah. I can't hear you. Your voice isn't coming through. What did you say? And then they take a chance and
it was
something or other happens.
It also reminded me, maybe because of the cuteness factor, it reminded me of the Baby Groot with the bomb in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah.
Repeat it back to me. I am Groot. I am Groot. And he's like, no, that's not the right thing to do. So there was that as well. So that was a lot really cute. And it's interesting that, well, Baby Yoda clearly can't follow instructions, but it's interesting that he thinks that Baby Yoda can follow instructions.
He's trying.
He's like, it was worth a try. So that was quite funny.
Yeah.
So then from there, they limp their way into port at, I don't remember the planet's name, but it's where he left his friends.
Navarro.
Yeah. Dave Navarro
That's right.
has his own planet.
Perry Farrell has his own.
Yeah, all the members of Jane's Addiction have their own planets.
Yeah.
So then, they go off to Navarro, where we have. Now, I'm not gonna call him Apollo Creed anymore. I'm gonna call him Chubbs, because Happy Gilmore was on this weekend. I forgot that Carl Weathers is Chubbs from Happy Gilmore. He's really good in that movie.
Yeah.
So I missed that. So Chubbs, Carl Weathers, who directed this episode as well, as we saw at the end. He is on this planet, and as is, what's her name?
Cara Dune.
And you know what I didn't notice before is that that's a tattoo under her eye of the rebel symbol. Did you notice that?
I don't think I did.
I thought it was just like a beauty mark. Like, they have those little, some people have a little mole or whatever under there. But it is the rebel insignia tattooed under her eye. That is what that is. I thought that was kind of interesting. She is the marshal of this town now. So she's doing the same thing that Corn on the Cob is doing back on Tatooine. She's and we saw they open that with this cool scene where you have these guys. What is the name of that species at the beginning when they're in the old Mandalorian hideout and they're going through their loot or something? It looks like they just robbed a bank or something like that, right? And they're about to kill a ferret for food.
Yeah, I don't remember. Did we ever know their name? I don't know.
Well, it's the same species. The two guys I wanted on 10 Systems. That guy. What is the guy's name?
Oh, Walrus Man.
Is that Walrus Man?
Yeah.
So why do they call him Walrus Man? He has no tusks.
That was the name. That was the name of the figure.
Okay.
That Kenner called him Walrus Man, and then he became Ponda Baba later on when back when they righted all the wrongs that Kenner had done on those figures. Okay. But I think that was one of them, was it not?
Yes. Well, all three of those guys were that species.
Was one of them? Oh no! Wait a sec. The Ponda Baba had his arm lobbed off.
No, that was. Did he? Yeah, he must have.
At the bar, yeah.
So I don't think that. I don't expect that to be any of those guys. But
same
I just noticed
species,
the same species, and so they look like they were just. They have a bunch of cash they're going through. One of them is getting ready to make a snack, and so then Cara Dune comes in and busts those guys up and takes them out, and then adopts a pet. Apparently, she gets this little, which I thought was weird because that pet did not look great. It did not look very real, to me. And it was obviously a practical effect of this animatronic ferret or whatever it was. And I just wonder, I mean, I know that a CGI one probably would have looked bad as well. I don't know how they would have gotten around that, but I thought it was interesting they chose to go with a real animatronic thing instead of just a CGI animal.
Oh, I didn't mind. I thought it was kind of funny. And by the way, was that the armor where the armorer was in the first season? That was that. I went by so fast that it only occurred to me later. I was like, was that the same place? I've only watched it once, so I think this episode I had more Mandonesia than other episodes because I was like, there's lots going on, and I think it went by pretty quick.
And there's a lot of familiarity in this episode because it does feel, because you have all these returning characters from last season, so it does feel very much, especially like it feels like the last few episodes of season 1 when they are working together to try and free that planet from the Empire and find out what's going on with Baby Yoda. And so anyway, we see that they have been somewhat successful in making the planet a peaceful place. People are living there. People are trading. Nobody's social distancing. It looks pretty crowded in that little town. But then Mando shows up, or Din shows up because he needs repairs again on his ship. And then Carl Weathers says he's going to put his best. What's his real name in the show? I don't know what his real name is.
Grief Karga? Is that his name?
I don't know. He says,
is that his name, or did I just throw some other Star Wars name out there?
I don't know.
You're gonna look it up for us?
Yeah. But he says, I'll put my best guys on it, and that happens to be the two people who are right next to them at that moment. One of them is clearly not one of his best guys because
he looks into the camera and goes, "I'm evil."
Yeah, there's certainly something there that you're like, okay, that's gonna come up again. Grief Karga. His name is Grief Karga. So
is that what I said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that. Anyway, so then, so again, and we kind of drop into this formula again of, well, the Mandalorian is here. He has time on his hands. They need his help with something else. But along the way, we also see our friend Horatio Sands return as the gill guy, the fishy guy that Mando brought in the very first episode of the show. So it was nice to see him, although I didn't like that character, and I really wanted to see him die. Like, I was hoping the character would get shot in this episode.
That character was responsible for some very good Star Wars humor in this episode, though. I give him credit for that. I mean, even first season when we saw him, everybody said he looked like he was from Star Trek The Next Generation. It looked like that style of creature design. Yeah. But I have to say, I was happy to see him in the thing, and it's a funny shtick where he's working off a debt. He has to work 130 years, was it, or 300 years?
300 years, yeah.
Yeah. He has to work off 300 years. Oh, I just thought that cracked me up, and some good Carbonite humor about like I'm still trying to see out of my left eye or whatever. That's funny stuff. And I was like, that's good.
And he's kind of the comic relief for the rest of the episode because he comes along with them. So their mission is to take out this final Empire base that's on the planet that are still there. And again, Carl has some bad intel. He never has the right intel, right? So he says that it's mostly abandoned. There's a skeleton crew. So they figure the three of them, meaning Mando and Cara and him, can take those stormtroopers on and clear it out and destroy it. I can't remember if they are actually successful. We'll talk about that in a second. And so they go in this speeder, and they pull up there, and this guy comes along for the ride. He drives them for some reason, and then they bring him in there with him, which I thought was kind of funny. Like, I don't know why this guy's even along in this mission. He doesn't seem to have much to contribute. Although I guess he has the technical know-how. Like, he did, push some buttons and do some things along the way to help complete the mission.
He grudgingly did it. He said, okay, I'll come get you later or whatever. Like, he was trying to get out of it.
Yeah, and they're like, nope, you're coming.
That's
like,
right.
I'm scared of heights and lava.
Yeah, that's good.
Things. So there's lots of great lines there.
Yeah, good tractor beam joke, carbonite joke, tractor beam joke, and the railing. There's no railing on these things.
Yeah. So that's that kind of stuff. And then they go ahead, and it seems again very reminiscent of the first film of like Obi-Wan kind of sneaking around the Death Star looking for all that equipment looked very familiar, and it looked very similar to the kind of stuff that Obi-Wan turned off, like the tractor beam controls. So that was cool. And then they discover, and then there's also great scenes where they take out stormtroopers, where Mando drops them off that ledge and that kind of stuff. That was all fun. But then they discover that it's not just an empty base; that there's more happening here, right? And this is where we learned a little bit more about what the Empire is planning to do with Baby Yoda.
The evil scientist from season 1 makes his appearance,
and he was back. So you were right about that.
That's right.
So you're wrong about the other thing.
I think I just asked if you think we're going to see him again.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll just say you're right. Anyway.
And he shows up, and he has extracted some DNA.
Some blood. He talked about blood, right?
From the child. He said, we only got enough to blah, 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 to something. So they didn't get tons, they got a little. Sorry, go ahead.
He also referred to something called the M count, I believe, is the phrasing of it, which stands for...
Midi-chlorians.
Gotta be midichlorians, right? So, yay, we brought back midichlorians. People are gonna be thrilled about that. But so this is what I think is going on there. So it looks like they've extracted blood from Baby Yoda because he has a high midichlorian count. He can manipulate the Force. He's very strong in the Force. So they're trying to replicate that and inject that into. I think they're trying to create Force-using stormtroopers. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think those are dark troopers from the expanded universe.
Oh yeah, at the end when we see those, and for a second there I thought it was a Darth Vader helmet. I thought, what are you doing here? Because
it's hard to see.
It is. I think that's deliberate. I think they don't want us to see what it looks like fully. We'll find out probably in an episode or two. But they do look like it's a bunch of dark uniforms anyway. So I think their goal here is to try and create Force wielding stormtroopers, which would be, that would be tough to overcome, right? If you have an army of Force users like that.
That appeared to be what they were doing. I need to look at that design again too, because I used to have the Dark Trooper action figure, and it might have looked like that. That might have been it. Like, okay. It's not a Death Trooper like the kind we saw in Rogue One. Those were kind of tall, skinny. These ones look bulkier.
Yeah.
So, but we still don't. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what those things are. I think.
So they discover this. They find a bunch of tanks and weird stuff. They watch the recording of the scientist, and it's a report. Yep. I
just thought of something else. Sorry. The tanks, they see like figures in the tanks. That looked like the Snoke tank.
It did.
So the cloning. I don't think we're gonna get to the origin of Snoke in this the Mandalorian. No. Well, maybe we will. Now that I think about it, but I don't think so. But I think maybe that's how you can have a clone that can wield the Force. It's almost to me seemed like they were trying to sort of go, see, this can happen, because it's like we saw Snoke, because people are still skeptical about Snoke and how that whole thing could have gone down. But this looks like it's the technology is a precursor.
Could be. Yeah. Absolutely could be, for sure. So then they realize that they're still after the child. Like I guess they thought Gideon was dead. I don't know. I guess he thought, because he saw the TIE fighter crash.
Right.
They didn't see him walk out of there with the Darksaber. So they thought he was dead, but he's not. So then Mando's like, I got to get back to the child. He boots on out of there to go back to get Baby Yoda, who, by the way, we skipped this part. They left him in a classroom. That was a great scene. That was a great scene. So they leave Baby Yoda in a classroom with a protocol droid teaching children. And then Baby Yoda wants this kid next to him has these macaroons, these little cookies look like macaroons, and he wants some. He asks nicely, I think, for Baby Yoda anyway. And the kid says no, and then Baby Yoda just proceeds to grab the whole pack of cookies with the force and eat them because he's Baby Yoda.
And he loves food.
He loves eating everything.
Yeah.
So that was a fun little scene. But that's where they left him, so then Mando has to go back and get him.
And I like that we have better learning technology in our timeline than what they have there, because it's just basically, it's a protocol droid that just stands there, and the protocol droid actually says settle down to the class, settle down. And I always like how children react to Baby Yoda, where this little punk comes in and they seat him in a desk that's too big for him, which is funny. And then they all kind of look at him like, what's with this thing joining us in this class? It's pretty funny. And I like, but once again, what would Mando be doing? Mando's like, okay, if you say it's safe. And I was like, it's not safe.
What's safe about it? Like,
Don't
I don't see
be
any guards
that,
there.
yeah.
I don't see any people there to protect. The protocol droid certainly isn't going to be able to protect anybody. So yeah, that's funny that they said that. But whatever, he trusts them. He leaves the Baby Yoda. And then but what was interesting about that whole sequence is he takes off, and then we have just the three characters. We left with the three characters without Mando, and I think that's the longest stretch we've gone without being alongside Mando in this whole series, right?
When it's a great scene where he takes off with the backpack and we got some good backpack action in today's episode.
Pack,
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And I said at a certain point, boy, we haven't seen him in a while. Like, is everything going okay at the school? Like, I kept getting worried. Like, that's what the show wants you to do. They want you to worry about what's going on with the baby.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, what's happening? What are we going to cut back to? So I was delighted when it turned out that all was well.
Yeah, but that whole sequence with those three was great as well, because they're fighting their way through the base.
Yeah.
They're not as good. Cara Dune is a pretty good warrior, but the Carl Weathers is okay, and the third guy is just useless pretty much. He's just the guy who opens the doors for them and stuff like that. But then they get out of here. They steal that cool armored car thing, which is something that we saw in Rebels, I believe. That's the first time I saw one of those. And there's these armored troop carrier kind of things.
Well, it's from the figures, right?
Is it?
I think we saw that troop transport pull up in the last season finale, in season 1 finale. I think if it's not the exact same thing, it's a variation of that thing.
Yeah. They all kind of look the same, but that is what that is. And they take that and they crush the guy's speeder with it, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, funny
stuff. And there's a great chase, and this is where we see the other stormtroopers on the speeder bikes chasing after them, and then the TIE fighters come out and are chasing after them, and it's just like it's so funny how bad of shots these guys are. They literally cannot hit a pretty stationary, like it's moving, but it's still like not swerving too much, and you think they'd be able to hit that thing from the air, and they can't. And it's really funny, although they do end up hitting it. But anyway,
it's a pretty great scene. I thought once again the special effects look fantastic. It was good to see those old school TIE pilots, and and that great shot where the speeder bikes come flying down the cliff.
Yeah,
like there's some and I think that catches us up on every clip we've seen in the trailer.
Oh, is that right?
I don't know that there's anything in the trailer that we haven't yet seen in an episode.
Oh, okay.
So I think the last 4 episodes, once again, the trailer only has clips from the first 4 episodes, I think. And then the last 4 will all be surprises. But I think you're right about Ahsoka doesn't show up till the finale.
Yeah, I think this establishes that, because otherwise we would have had her in this episode.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, Mando comes out of the blue to save them those guys worked, I don't know what the time frame is here, but those guys seem to have worked very quickly on the Razor Crest to fix it up.
Yeah.
Because it's like good as new. And it pops out of there, and he chases down those last couple of TIE fighters and shoots them down. And some great scenes. Baby Yoda's Baby Yoda has his arms up in the air like he's on a roller coaster. He's having a great old time.
He has a little seatbelt on. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny.
He's munching on his macarons while he's flying around there. And then at the end, he pukes it up, which is hilarious. I love that. That's
solid.
Awesome.
That's solid Baby Yoda action throughout that entire... He has his own little story arc where he's...
It's always fun when they show Baby Yoda for whatever reason. So that was good. And that's pretty much it. That's the episode. That's all it is.
Well, then we get the scene at the end with Moff Gideon and the super soldiers. And I got to listen to that discussion again, because I think they established that they're tracking the ship.
Yes. So that one guy that looked into the camera, one of the mechanics, placed a tracker on the Razor Crest. And this is, by the way, they had cut to a Star Destroyer, which is again a very reminiscent of the first movie. It was that underneath the Star Destroyer shot that's from the very first movie, one of the very first shots in Star Wars. It was the exact same shot, which was really cool.
Yeah.
But it was clearly a newer Star Destroyer, right? The model was a little different from what we've seen in the past, so that was cool as well.
Yeah. No, I thought the episode went by, like, it was only 40 minutes long, and I thought it flew by. It was so fast, and once again, like, it flew by so fast that there's certain elements that I almost can't remember. It was a real it's like a classic Star Wars thrill ride, where there's lots of good chasing going on, lots of good like Imperial hallways. The Imperials are just as bad as they've ever been, and if anything, they are more cult-like now. They're willing to do, like, did you see there's the guy when they break in, and there's the guy who shoots out the controls himself, so they can't get access to them. They're a little more suicidal, these Imperials.
Well, it's the same thing we saw last episode with Bosch, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing. They are very loyal to this Moff Gideon. Like this guy has their loyalty. And what's interesting about, and I didn't notice this about his uniform, but has he always worn that kind of armor on his chest? Like that looks like Darth Vader armor, to be honest.
I think so.
He's always had that? Okay, well, I don't know why I just noticed it, but he looks like you could throw a helmet on that guy and he'd be Darth Vader.
Right.
At this point. Like, he just looks just like him.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. And he was smiling, too. He was happy.
Yeah.
At the end of it.
Made him happy.
He's got a line on his asset. Does he have the asset?
He's only happy when other people are suffering.
That's right. So their goal clearly is to track the Razor Crest, attack him, get Baby Yoda back, and continuing to pull blood. I guess that's what they were doing to Baby Yoda last season, is just taking blood so that they can use it to replicate the midichlorians. It's got to be their goal. And it's really interesting to see what they're going to do with that. Like, do you think that he could be the one that wants force power? So I could see him injecting himself with this serum or something like that to give himself force powers, right? That kind of thing.
Well, we could also be setting up, like, okay, if he's got the dark saber and the Mandalorians know where Ahsoka is and Mando's heading there with a tracker on him, this could turn out to be a pretty awesome battle. This could be quite an interesting thing. If they let us see the battle this season, they might make us wait till, I think this is 3 seasons, is it not, The Mandalorian? I think it is.
I have no idea. I know they've approved a 3rd season. I don't know if it's ending at 3, but
yeah.
You're right, because there's the Mandalorian factor as well, and there's also those Mandalorians that we saw last episode who are also looking for Gideon. So they all might come together at the end, I think, is what we expect to happen.
I think those are the loose storylines that are slowly coming together. And I think it is setting up something cool. I mean, at some point we're gonna have to get our butts to Mandalore and see what's going on there, I guess. And I, like, in the back of my mind today, I was like, okay, so am I ready to make a prediction for the last episode ever of The Mandalorian? And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if he showed up on Mandalore and I don't know, like, he was made like the Grand Knight of Mandalore for all of his Mandalorian efforts or something. He was made the leader of the Mandalorian army or something.
You know, we don't really know a ton about his motivation other than the fact that he loves Baby Yoda and he wants to protect Baby Yoda.
Right.
And his dedication to the ways in which he was taught, the Mandalorian ways, which are apparently not the main beliefs, is not the main belief system of the Mandalorians. It's a cult. It's a fringe offshoot of the culture. So I think we're going to see him come to terms with that. And again, and there was, okay, so I was wondering, you know, they said the issue with this was that Pedro Pascal got upset and quit and whatever with this episode. Mm-hmm. I was thinking maybe it was the episode where he had to lift up his helmet a little bit to sip the soup.
That was good.
So he just like had to lift it up just a little bit to take a sip of soup and then put it back down again. Maybe Pedro Pascal just wanted to take his helmet off altogether. But didn't like that.
That's one of those classics where you say to the actor, okay, fine, do it that way. And then they do it, and they go, okay, do it the other way, and they do it the other way, and then you're like, yeah, just get rid of that first stuff.
Yeah, you just don't use that take. Yeah, that's right.
Right. I mean, I think that's what actors are famous for and what directors are famous for. But I don't think so. I think it was good, and we even saw Baby Yoda look up. It looked like Baby Yoda saw his face.
It did,
yeah. So Baby Yoda looked up and saw him, and at the end of season 1, he said no living creature can see my face, and IG-11 said, well, I'm not a living creature, so it's fine. But so it already shows he's loosening up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's So we know they have this deep bond. I think we've got to have some kind of fulfillment there. And I don't know if it's going to end up being he's Baby Yoda's buddy for life, or what's going to happen from when Baby Yoda grows up. Is he going to come back, kind of thing? Like it'll be interesting to see what happens, because I think he will have to drop him off, and at some point Baby Yoda is going to have to grow up. So we'll see what he looks like. They might fast forward 50 years or something like that. They'll see what he looks like. We might see old Pedro Pascal with a bunch of old person makeup on. But there's something. I think there's got to be something there as far as like just exploring that relationship.
Well, it also occurred to me today, because I was thinking in advance, if we see Ahsoka in today's episode, and what if he does leave the child with Ahsoka, and we're all like, oh no, and then they don't show the child in the last 4 episodes. Then what are we gonna do? What are we gonna think? And that didn't happen. But then I thought, okay, what if the season ends with him dropping off little Baby Yoda to Ahsoka, and then like the rumor is they're gonna do an Ahsoka series, and that wouldn't surprise me at all if they ended up doing that. And then what if Baby Yoda then is on the Ahsoka show and not on the Mandalorian show? And I want him to be on the Mandalorian show. I don't want some spin-off, like, especially I think as long as the Mandalorian is a TV series, it's okay if Baby Yoda isn't in every episode. But I think we need to return to check in on him from time to time.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Or else it's not the Mandalorian. I think those are the two characters.
Okay.
They've both been in every episode, so
I believe so. Yeah. But I gotta say, the nicest thing about this episode was getting to see the old characters back again. Yeah. Carl Weathers and Cara Dune, those guys, like they were great. And then even at the end there, we had Kim's Convenience come back.
Oh yeah.
At the end to figure out what was going on. It's I'm not sure what his role is. Is he like an investigator? Is he like
he's
Carl
a beat
Weathers
cop.
He calls him officer. Like, I don't know if he's an officer. I mean, if he could be an officer in the whatever you call the Space Force, whatever you call those guys. But certainly it was nice to see him again, and he goes off and has a conversation with Cara Dune about, hey, why don't you come back and join up again and have a conversation about Alderaan and that kind of stuff. That was really good.
Oh, really right. That's a big plot point that we forgot, that I totally forgot about. She is from Alderaan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she lost everybody. He's like, did you lose anybody? She's like, I lost everybody. What did you... Like, come on, the planet blew up. What do you expect?
Of course, in the back of my mind, I was like, is there a Leia connection? Is there...
It's a big planet. It's a big planet. Come on.
Well, it's a small... that might be true, but it's a small universe. If we know anything about Star Wars, they're running into each other left and right.
Right, exactly. That's even more made evident by the holiday special, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, like I think that it was nice to see the Kim's Convenience guy back in there again. And after that episode aired, the two episodes ago with him, the one where he first appeared, there were all kinds of great articles online about how he got that role. And because people were really, like, especially here in Canada, people were really surprised to see him in The Mandalorian. So that was really cool. Yeah,
I like that. He deputized her. He gave her a badge.
Yeah.
And you're right. Now she is the corn on the cob. Whatever. What was his last name? Cobb.
Vance Cobb.
Vance Cobb. Right. Corn on the cob. Vance Corn on the Cob of Navarro. Of Dave Navarro.
And she's the right person for it, because she clearly cares about the people, and she wants to make sure cut down on crime and that kind of stuff. So that's good. I mean, that's a great role for her. And so it seems like those characters are kind of set in their. They're invested in that. They're going to stay there and that kind of stuff. So we'll probably come back and check on them every once in a while.
Did you notice that there was 2 X-Wing fighters that were parked there, but we only saw the actor from Kim's Convenience, which means that Dave Filoni's scenes are on the cutting room floor. That acting could not see the light of day. The only actor we were allowed to see was the actual actor.
Yes, not the executive producer of the show.
Because in the last time we saw him, he was just leaning against the X-Wing too. He barely said anything. He was more bemused at the hijinks that were going on than he was participating in the conversation. And this time he was clearly there somewhere, but I don't know. Maybe when we get the directors roundtable after this season, he'll have a story about like how Carl Weathers had to cut his performance from this episode because something wasn't there. Like, why show 2 X-Wing fighters if you're not going to see the other pilot? And there's only one possible answer, and that is that pilot is not as good an actor as the guy from Kim's Convenience. That guy's a better actor.
He is.
Yeah.
So that was all good. So yeah, overall great episode, and it kind of gives us an idea of where it's going for the rest of the season. I think I'm gonna guess we only have. Well, I guess they'll do 10 episodes again, right? No.
Oh, I think it's 8. Yeah.
So only 4 more episodes.
Oh, it goes so fast.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, did you watch the Star Wars Holiday Special, the Lego Holiday Special?
I didn't have enough time, but I did start it, and I watched about 10 to 15 minutes of it, and I think I got the gist, believe it or not.
You really do. To be honest, you do. Now, I liked it and I didn't. I mean, it is Lego, which means it's completely different from, like, none of it is canon.
Yeah.
Although they hint at what could be canon. I kind of like that. So the premise of this episode of this holiday special is that we start with Rey, and this takes place after the Rise of Skywalker, right? So we get to see a little bit into what that world could be like post sequel trilogy, and Rey is training Finn in the ways of the Force. Now, this is something that they never actually came out and said it in the movies. That, remember, there was a thing like Finn was like going to say, "Oh, I have something to tell you, Rey," and then JJ said that it was him saying that I'm Force sensitive. But they never did actually say it. So this is kind of a revelation to a lot of people who didn't know that or didn't see that aspect of that film. Anybody coming into it would be like, "Oh, Finn can use the Force?" Like, that would be something new, I think, that they talked about there.
Yeah.
Right? And so they are, I don't know, they're on Kashyyyk. They're on Kashyyyk, I think, or they're going to Kashyyyk.
For Life Day.
For Life Day, because Poe gets all worked up about Life Day, and it's like, they've gone full in on the Christmas parallel to Life Day, including like holiday sweaters and Christmas and the Life Day trees, and it's exactly the same as Christmas. They just call it Life Day. It's pretty funny.
I thought the voice actor playing Poe was not on strategy.
No. In fact, I would say that whole thing was very out of character for Poe.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the Lego characters are supposed to be kind of like almost caricatures of the actual characters. Like, they're goofy, they're funny. The Darth Vader done by Matt Sloan, really, really good. I love it. He's got a big part in this as well. He's throughout the entire thing, which is great. But I can tell it's Matt Sloan's voice a little bit in some of the intonation, which is just because I've been used to hearing him do that for so many years. So the story is, it's not really super important, but the idea is that Rey, I can't remember how it even starts. Rey sees something. She's trying to teach Finn how to use the Force. Finn is not getting it. She's getting frustrated with not being able to train him properly. And then she finds out, she's looking through the old texts. She's got all the books, right, that she took from the tree before it blew up. And she's reading through the books, and she can't find anything to help her with this. But she does find a passage that talks about, on Life Day, at this certain time, at a certain place, something will appear. So she goes off to find out what that is. And then it turns out to be this crystal, and she's in like a Jedi temple. She finds this Jedi temple on this planet, and she finds this crystal that looks like it's duct taped together. It was weird. It was kind of like, is this supposed to look like that? But they basically take this thing, and when she waves it, it creates a portal through time and space, and she can go back in time. And the whole episode from then on is basically just a bunch of hijinks of her jumping back and forth through other Star Wars movies. Let's be clear, like, these are all direct references to Star Wars movies. Mm-hmm. Every scene that takes place after that is within the time frame of a Star Wars film, which I thought was interesting, including, and you wouldn't have seen this because I don't think you watched too far enough into it, including a reference to the Mandalorian. So
I did not.
Yeah,
I did not see that much. I thought of the 15 minutes I saw, I was a little underwhelmed, but I also didn't have much time. So what the bit I saw, what you said, I thought, it's corny. It's kind of corny, and
it's for kids.
I actually thought in the preview for it, the humor looked a little more cutting and a little more like adult-like Star Wars jokes. And then when I actually started watching it, I was like, it's almost it's a very childlike approach to the story.
That's what Lego Star Wars is, and all the TV series they've had. All the little things they've done for Lego, that's what it is all about, is just kind of making it fun for the kids.
I was a little disappointed that the intro was also based on the characters from the latest trilogy, where it was kind of like, we could set this anywhere. We could do the Lego version of the original Star Wars Holiday Special.
That's the one. I was very disappointed that there were no references or jokes to that.
Yeah.
At all. I was waiting for them to make fun. Yeah, they should have made fun of that. They should have referenced that. I was waiting for B. Arthur to show up. Or
totally.
Something like that. They do have Chewbacca's family, and I think they took efforts to make them look like those characters from the Holiday Special a little bit. Like Itchy does look like Itchy.
Right.
In a lot of ways, but it's still Lego, and you can't really tell that that's meant to be. And I was hoping for more inside jokes. I thought one of the funniest jokes in the whole thing was, and you wouldn't have seen it because you didn't go far enough, but Greedo shows up and says McClunky, which I thought was pretty funny.
That's good.
He just like McClunky. He just kind of shows up and says that out of nowhere.
I'll watch. I'll definitely watch the rest for references like that. I'll watch, and I planned on it anyway. But I just didn't. What day did it come out? Wednesday or something?
It was on Tuesday, the 17th. Yeah.
So if you have a new episode of the Mandalorian or the Lego special, you're like, the Lego special can wait. And plus, Christmas is like a month away, so it's kind of like,
but they're trying to release it timed in with the holiday. Like the holiday special was released in November.
Right.
It was like late November of 1977 or 78 or whatever. It was 78.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to make it timed out like that. Although again, they make no actual references to it, so that's kind of disappointing. I did hear about, however, a documentary that will be released. I don't know when, but someone is working on a documentary about the holiday special. That looks very interesting. And they interviewed as many people as they possibly could, more than 20 people who were involved in the writing and production of it. So I think that's going to be really good. And I'll let you know when and it said coming soon. I saw the trailer for it. I'll post it. I'll share the trailer, and then you guys can see what it's like. And then, I don't, like, there was not a release date associated with that, so I don't know when it's coming out. But it looked good. It's interesting. And I'm more interested in that. I'm more interested in how that thing came to be and how it is what it is, as opposed to kind of seeing a Lego version of it. So that's, again, my one disappointment is that they didn't reference that at all. But it's a fun little Lego adventure for kids. That's basically what it is.
Earlier this week, in my YouTube watch list, the original holiday special popped up again, and I was like, "Oh, the hell with it!" And I fast forwarded all the way to the end scene, and watched Carrie Fisher sing that terrible song to the end. And by the way, the camera angle on her is not flattering. It's like they can't even get that right. Okay. And as she's singing, and she pronounces harmony, and like things like that, you're like, could we do a second take here? Like, what was the story?
It's TV.
With Harrison Ford standing there looking like he'd like to commit suicide, and Mark Hamill, and just standing around. And then you've got Wookiees with the red smocks on marching somewhere. And when you watch it, you're just like, this is terrible. Like, it's so bad that it makes, like, some of those original Star Trek episodes are pretty bad when you compare them to what you can do today. But Holiday Special came out after those, and somehow they go back in time, and they almost make it look like this thing must be from 1963. It's amazing that thing exists. It really is. And they should release it. They should release it.
They should. And I think they eventually will. I do think that, because people are warming up to it, and Disney, like, it clearly, obviously the rumor was George Lucas hated it and didn't want it to see light of day after it was aired. And I think he tried to, and again, this documentary gets into it, where he tried to buy the negatives for it and stuff like that. The other also include interviews with the cast over the years. So anytime it comes up in an interview, like there's one clip of Conan asking Harrison Ford about it, and Harrison Ford like pretends to choke Conan because he can't talk about it or something. It's funny. So they include little bits like that. Again, this documentary looks really good. But overall, I just felt the Lego thing, it was fun. It's a fine piece of Lego Star Wars content, but it didn't really achieve what I was hoping to do, which was kind of bring back that feeling of the original holiday special. I really hoped that they would get into that, and they really didn't at all. So
that's too bad.
Unfortunately. Yeah. Other than the only similarity is the Life Day reference, but they really took, I mean, in the original holiday special, it was still unclear that Life Day was supposed to be a Christmas, analogous to Christmas. Like you kind of got that idea. Like, basically, only because Christmas can't exist in Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, that's
because that means Jesus exists in
exactly.
Star Wars.
Yeah, you can't go down that rabbit hole. So they just probably on the spur of the moment decided to call it Life Day for the original holiday special. And then in this Lego one, they take that and say, oh, yes, this is a holiday that we celebrate every year.
Right.
It's Life Day. And they kind of go from there. But they make it exactly like Christmas. So,
I heard you just reminded me, I heard a really good interview with somebody who worked on the holiday special. And it's one of two things. It's either the documentary you're talking about, some podcaster probably had that person on who made the documentary. It was either that, or it might be crazy. It might have been somebody on Gilbert Gottfried's podcast who produced loads of TV variety shows and did Star Wars too.
Well, one of the guys in the documentary is Bruce Valanche.
Yeah.
Who's involved in it.
That might be it.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That might be it. That might be where I heard that. But once again, like, super fascinating stories about behind the scenes and how real and I think George Lucas himself said he'd like to burn every copy, if I'm not mistaken. He'd like to track down and burn every copy, kind of like the Atari ET video game. He'd like to burn it, and then in 100 years we'll dig it up and go, look what we found.
But yeah, I think they will release it at some point. I would like to see like a remastered version of that. I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Before we go, I want to make another recommendation again, because we're not doing media nerds this week. We're talking about Star Wars nerds. But I did watch a very short first season of Moonbase 8. Have you seen this yet?
No.
Oh, it's so funny. This is John C. Reilly, Fred Armisen, and Tim Heidecker. Tim and Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim and Eric. So the Tim from that, Tim Heidecker, is in this. And the show is about these three guys who are on the Moonbase simulation. So similar to, I don't know if did you watch Space Force at all with Steve Carell?
No, I didn't.
Okay, well, that show, it's a similar idea. It's a comedy. In Space Force, they have one or two episodes that center around this fake moon base that they have. I think NASA really does have a fake moon base where they're simulating things and studying they're in the middle of the desert. And so these guys live on this moon base. And they're training to be astronauts to go to the moon, but they're all they're kind of stuck there. And it's really funny. And the best part about it is the degree to which they buy into the simulation, in that they always put on their suit before going outside. They always they treat it like they're on the moon, even though they're in the middle of an Arizona desert or something like that. I don't know where they are exactly, but it's really, really funny. And it's on, you can find it on Crave. If you just use your voice search on your remote, you'll be able to find it. Because I don't know who released it in the States, but here in Canada, it's on Crave. Just 6 episodes, though. Very, very short, half-hour episodes. So funny. It's just hilarious. I love it.
Awesome. Great recommendation.
It's one of the best new series I've seen this year. And again, John C. Reilly, that guy he kills it in comedies. He is so funny. It's really well worth watching. So.
Oh, good one. Love it. I'll check that out for sure.
So yeah, for the listeners, after they're done watching the holiday special, they can watch that. Actually, I would rather watch that than the holiday special again. I think I would rather watch that again.
I'll finish off the holiday special. I'll have some thoughts for you next week. I always intended to, but I will say I was underwhelmed by the intro.
Here's an interesting piece of news. So I have the Xbox Game Pass, right? And I also have the EA Play, which is the EA version of that. It's like a subscription for service for EA games. And guess which game showed up there last week? The one that you lent me. This game, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, is there you can just play it on the EA. So instead of paying however much you paid for this game, you can pay $6 a month to play it.
I got the game on sale.
Well, I know, but it's interesting how they're this is a pretty high end game. This is the big Star Wars title to come out last year.
Right.
And they're putting it on this service so people can play it. So I thought that was interesting that it just shows up there. And if you haven't played this game yet, it's a good deal. $6 a month. You could finish it in a month.
I actually like the story in the game. Among my favorite things in that game is the story. And of course, we've talked about how the worst thing is you get stuck on those maps. There's no teleport. Yep. You're just wandering around. Go back to the planet. And you're like, oh, God. Go back to the maze. Go collect some shit that you can't find anywhere. God.
You can't push this bridge down yet. But then when you learn the force push, then you can come back and push the bridge down.
Yeah,
that's that game.
So frustrating. But the story is great. I mean, it's good enough that you should play it. for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not without its frustrations.
Well, there you go. And then now it's for anybody to play on Xbox or EA Play rather. I don't know if EA Play is also for PlayStation or not, but
I don't know.
Anyway, interesting. That's going to do it for this episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vadewonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you on the ass.
That's no move.
Now I am the master.
TK421, you copy?
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters. Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
TK421, you copy?
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
I'm taking an awful risk, Vader.